Have you ever thought to yourself, man, I really wish that I could use my PS5 controller along with my Super Nintendo, or even the PS5 controller with an NES, or heck, an Xbox controller with either of those, even more controllers, really. There's something called a Brook Wingman, and this thing is freaking nuts, and I've been sold, and I think this could possibly be the coolest thing ever. Let me tell you why. I have truly became a believer of the Brook Wingman for the SNES and NES. And I know this is also not going to be for everybody. You're going to have your hardcore retro fans that are probably astonished that I'd even recommend something like this. Or the people that like hold their pinky up when they're playing with their retro controller and they're just like, well, my good sir, I would never do such a thing. Well, have fun with your freaking carpal tunnel because it's not for you. Okay, cool. So let's get back to it. The beauty of this device is that it's actually compatible with 125 plus different controllers, and you can use it with a wire or through Bluetooth. And really, no matter what, you're getting really low latency out of it. You get no latency, basically, whenever you use a wire, and then you maybe get a frame or two of latency whenever you're using through Bluetooth. There are two other things that I really like about this. First, my favorite one is that it's actually capable of letting you remap buttons. So for me personally, I enjoy doing Super Mario World Kaizo, and the way Nintendo created the controller and let everything set up in the original Super Mario World, the button layout is not friendly. You have to do some like really weird claw method where you're like this, and I feel like after a while you're just gonna turn into that one guy from Scary Movie that like shoves his hand inside the turkey and like scares everyone off. Like this is good because all this does, I can take what would be the B button on an Xbox controller, and then I can map it to the trigger, and then I can just play it like this. Essentially, I believe that's how it is on Mario Maker, and that's one of the good things about Mario Maker, is that you didn't have to deal with the ridiculous controllers. A second thing about this is that it actually gives you the ability to turn turbo on. So that means if you're playing a game that has like a lot of guns and you're shooting a lot of missiles and stuff, you don't have to just continuously spam a button. You can just turn on turbo and it'll shoot for you, and then you can just turn it off whenever you need to. Let me show you how awesome this is when you're running through Bluetooth. I am used to using a wire. I'm not used to going through wireless, and honestly, I can't tell much of a difference. Those spin jumps, those are done through button remapping with the trigger. And also, pun intended, trigger warning, you're actually capable of using the thumbstick if you want to instead of the D-pad. But I don't know what heathen would want to use the thumbstick instead of the D-pad in a retro game, or at least like Super Mario. I guess to each their own. Overall, I think the Wingman is a great option if you're like me and you do Super Mario World Kaizo, where the button mapping and stuff like that sort of just comes in really, really key if you don't want to do piano method with the Super Nintendo controller, or you don't want to do the claw method. Plus, you get the option to also plug it in. If you're not one to do Bluetooth, if you're like me, you'd prefer to gain your one extra frame that really doesn't matter, plug her in. And at this point, it's a lot more difficult to try and find any original controllers for these retro consoles, the NES and SNES. And if you do, you don't know where the controller's been, it's been used, and new ones cost an arm and a leg. Why not use the controllers that you already have? Let me know down below, am I crazy, or does this actually seem like something that is worth buying?